The peanut butter jar right here changed my life for the good and for the bad. Yeah, is there any way you could get me one of those 5 pounds of peanut butter? And he's like, yeah, it's going to be 4 mackerels. Mm-hmm. First time I went. And I did it 6 times. 7th time, man, was not a charm. I'm walking, and I'm just holding my breath. Just trying to be as normal as possible. And I hear, hey, you. I walk over there, and she's like, your bag looks heavy. Let me see your bag.
Man.
She took everything, and I thought I was going to get thrown in the shoe. They wanted to know who gave me the peanut butter. And they were like, well, no matter what, Mr. Tony, we still believe that you're lying. And I'm like, oh, here goes.
These cats need to jump.
You're listening to Criminal Code, our story behind bars.
Welcome to Criminal Code Podcast. We talk all things prison. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tony, and our other co-host, Sonny. We're going to do part 2 from last week regarding RDAP. But
yeah, I know we were picking up from your crazy adventure and your story. You were in the process of being ratted out.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I believe.
Yes. So, long story short, when I got ratted out, I got
Abdul?
Yep. We're going to call him Abdul. The 6'3", just big guy. But I ended up getting called out, and then I tried to back out of it and say my vision was terrible and I didn't see all the bad things that were happening, if you guys can recall from the last episode. And if you didn't see the last episode, make sure you go back and watch it, so more of this is gonna make sense. But I ended up getting crucified to a certain degree because I tried to lie. And in RDAP.
Yeah. And we were also talking about RDAP, and that was the whole premise of the last episode. But this was towards the beginning of your stay, correct?
Yes, that was in the beginning, so I was fresh. And then, today we're going to talk about what exactly happened to, me.
Okay. Sounds good. So you're going through RDAP. That was your rude awakening introduction to the program.
Yeah.
And you guys are basically in your own quarters.
Yes, own world.
Right. Let's talk about that a little. And, how did they separated you guys entirely? Like your actual
the total living arrangement. So at Morgantown, we had it looked like a tennis camp, so there's no fences, but there was 1,000 guys on any given day, 1,000 prisoners on any given day. There were 7 dormitory styles, no cell blocks. It was, bunk beds in the middle and little makeshift quarters, and then there's the actual, maybe 200 square foot rooms that had a bunk bed in it. So you're literally at 52 people. So two of the facilities, and one of the facilities was just for RDAP, because the way that the prisoners are treated and the higher standard that they have to live up to while they're in prison, it's a lot more strict than general population.
And so it's about 110, 120 guys in
Yes.
your unit. You had actual rooms?
Yes. You start off,
Interesting.
you start off actually in a main room. So you'll have rooms around the perimeter, and then in the center it's going to be like dividers and all that, and then you'll have one bunk here and then one bunk here. So you're almost going to have like a room for 4 in a separated quarter, like dividers.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So, I mean, that's one main difference, depending on what spot you end up at. We had a camp next to the penitentiary, maximum penitentiary. So it was 120 guys, but to me it looked exactly like what a big gymnasium would look like.
Right.
Our bunk beds were probably 5 feet, 6 feet apart, next to each other in the shape of a U around this basketball-looking gym.
Mm-hmm.
So no walls, no rooms, 120 inmates
Just open space.
in this U-shaped gym of double bunk beds. So we're all in there. Our tables are all in the middle of that U, and then 2 rows actually of bunk beds with an aisle going around this whole space in a U shape. So,
Yeah, no, the facilities that we had there looked like, every single unit looked like a ranch style home from the outside. And then in the inside, it's just, the perimeters where the rooms are at. And then you have in the hallways, the big hallways to the dividers and stuff. So it wasn't too bad. But in terms of strict, oh man.
Interesting.
My experience in prison in RDAP is a lot different. A lot of the things you did, the cooking, the all the different, we couldn't do.
Yeah, so that actually is pluses and minuses, but we had microwaves and we had
Nope.
a lot of other stuff because we had the Unicor, the technology recycling plant at our location. That's where a lot of guys worked. And anytime electronics would come in, they'd bring over like the good working ones over to our unit. So microwaves, we'd get like a treadmill, or we'd get a new iron if there was a new iron or something like that.
It didn't have
Stuff like that.
cheese on it.
Probably. And before I got there, there was a lot of electronics coming over from there. But
Okay.
it's at your own risk. Like if you get it and you get caught, then you're shipped out immediately. And surprisingly, the period that I was there, like they said, it got all strict. And one of the COs, who'll go unnamed, just was this hard guy that just had it out for us. So he'll go unnamed, but he kind of put the clamps down on us. He got rid of all electronics. They said right before I got there, they'd have like 9 o'clock lights go out, and then the whole gym would light up with cell phone sounds. Be like do 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 do.
Oh, see now imagine that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now you add some steroids to him in terms of behavior. We had 6 drug treatment specialists that were like that. They specifically looked out.
Yeah.
Well, because you have to understand too, RDAP. So anytime anyone gets into RDAP, no matter how long you're staying, they get funding up front. Their goal at the end of the day is to test you and test you and test you, and either get you to quit, free money, or get kicked out, free money.
Yeah.
And then if you get in trouble and you have to extend a stay, and there's 3 terms. You got the red, which is beginning, the yellow, which is the middle, and then the green. You're about to graduate. If you extend a term, they get more funding for it because they're only paid for the first 3.
Right.
Yes, at least at Morgantown. RDAP might be different at another spot. So their goal is either to get you to keep on staying there or get you kicked out.
Yeah.
Because then if you get kicked out in the red phase, they're already paid up for the second and third phase. And like I said, there are so many different ways that the dress code we had to follow. No matter where we were at, even outside of the building, we had to be pressed. I mean, shirts tucked in, everything had to be perfect. They would measure every morning. I became a professional in terms of making my bed. Every morning, a CO would walk around, check the beds, measure the fold, everything like that, and the pillow like that, so on and so forth. We could never take any food. The only thing we were allowed to take from cafeteria is a piece of fruit. But if we were caught with anything else, if we were making any food, if some guys got caught using the iron, gone. Yeah, some guys got caught making pizzas, maybe not gone, but you're gonna have your ass handed to you. Happened to me.
Yep. So you're going along, you're doing well in the program, and fast forward a little bit, but towards what period you had another incident?
Yeah. So after that particular time, I settled down and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna keep to myself. I'm not going to I'm gonna have a lot of acquaintances, no establish any relationships, and kind of do my thing. So I did great for a little while, but what happened? Just backtrack here was, when I got into prison, I was 222, so I was like, it was heavy for me, man. I'm like almost 5'9" on a good day, So what happened was I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do my best to work out and be healthy. I wasn't a big fan of the cafeteria food, so I pretty much relied on working out when I could while I was there, and I ate a lot of peanut butter.
Okay.
And that kept me at least satiated to a certain degree, and the proteins and fats and all whatever that.
Yeah, I've heard a bunch of people recommend it as a protein replacement, or
it was the best to have there. So, and that's why, if you guys noticed, or if you're wondering, not the Coke can, but the peanut butter jar right here. The peanut butter jar right here changed my life for the good and for the bad.
Okay.
We'll get into it. So I ate a lot of peanut butter, a lot. The problem was, I don't know if you had limits at the commissary in terms of how much you could buy.
To a degree, I mean, more just based on what was available or not in the store, but yeah.
So we were allowed to get 2 cans. So this one here we couldn't get this size. This right here is about 48 ounces.
Okay.
We were allowed to,
Yeah, the CO, whoever's in charge that day, would say 2 or 3, whatever, so that other inmates could also get that product.
Right. We were allowed to only get 2.
Okay.
And I could finish one of the 13-ounce jars, or the 40, whatever the smaller ones are. I could finish that in 2 days. I would just eat it, just straight. So
spoon it out. Interesting.
After a while, I was doing good, working out, losing a lot of weight, eating peanut butter. But the problem was I was running out of it too quick before you could go and get to the commissary again. So I ended up, when I was working out, I met a guy, we're going to call him Charlie. He worked in the kitchen. And, I asked him, because, when I would go to the lunches, never really went to the dinners, but when I would go to the lunches, they would have like peanut butter sandwiches and all. I was like, what kind of peanut butter you guys got in the kitchen? He's like, oh man, we get the 5-pound jugs, the jars like this. And in need of having the peanut butter, I had to choose. And this is the thing with RDAP. You gotta choose a thing called super optimism. It's about getting away with things or not getting away with it, depending on what you want, what your value is. For me at that time, continuing to have the peanut butter, eating it so the diet could be straight, because I was getting results, so I didn't want to change that variable, or things are going to change. In need of getting the peanut butter, I chose the peanut butter over being safe and not violating RDAP rules. So the first time I was like, hey, is there any way you could get me one of those 5 pounds of peanut butter? And he's like, yeah, it's going to be 4 mackerels. So I was like, okay, no problem. First time I went, and I did it 6 times. 7th time, man, was not a charm.
Did what 6 times?
I was able to get the 5 pounds of peanut butter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem part was hiding it, but I always kept the 2 empty jars, and then I would put the peanut butter inside. So the first time I met with Charlie, we're in the gym. I'm sitting there trying to do the burpees and all that, whatever, and I see him walking in. He's got this little heavy bag right there, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's It's my damn peanut butter. So he goes, we sit down next to each other. I had the 4 mackerels inside of one of my bags, and then we just switched, and we would change bags later, but he would then give me the bag that had the 5 pounds of peanut butter. So then I'm like, all right, well, I just got to make it to the dorm, get into my little cell, little block. No, not a cell in terms of bars, but then I would get in there, and I'd wait till nighttime because I knew when the COs would be coming around, or you could see it. But during that time, I would sit, and I was always on a top bunk if I could, just because I didn't want to be on the bottom bunk, just safety-wise, even though nothing ever happened there. I got onto the top bunk, and during nighttime, in between CO shifts, I'd sit there with a spoon, open up the big jar of peanut butter, take it out, put it in the little jar. Because in case of a shakedown, I don't want to get caught. You don't want to get caught with that big jug.
Yeah.
Now, it would have been a violation to have more than 2 of the small cans, which I did have, but it would be at least a lot better than having a jar, the white jar, that you're not supposed to have at all.
Yeah.
Not like they're going to sit there and smell the peanut butter. So I did that, and I would have about 4 or 5 of the jars filled with peanut butter in there, and I was good. A couple months, man. Things were smooth. I ended up eating as much peanut butter as I wanted. I was working out. Things were great. I met him again. Did the same thing. We had our same process, 4 mackerels. And then that was going through, I was in red phase, happened all through the yellow phase, okay? And then there was the green phase, right in the beginning of the green phase. So I'm like 2 months away, man.
Okay, so you're, not getting into all the details, you're like less than 20% home.
Yeah, I'm home. No, even more than that. I'm agree.
10%.
Yeah, because once I finished, only because the sentence was a lot shorter than most of the guys in there, the way it worked out, I would have been out. The RDAP was a 9-month program. I would have been there for about 10 and a half, 11 months. So I'm literally right when I would be finishing up the program, I would almost be gone.
Right.
So, and after 6 times, I'm like, I'm never gonna get caught, man.
You get comfortable.
I didn't even get comfortable. I was still doing, I was like, all right, I'm sitting there like Pookie, when I'm walking back. So the 7th time, and I'll never forget it, man. I was in the gym, and we're all doing our thing. Same process. We switch bags. I give him the mackerels, the peanut butter, and I make a beeline once I get it. I do my same thing. I walk. So it's about maybe 1,000 feet or something like that from the gym to the dorm. So I'm walking out, and I remember it perfectly because it was getting a little bit darker. It was during the fall time. It's getting a little bit darker, and I'm carrying my bag. I got my towel over the bag because these are the bags that every bag has to be. It's mesh, it's see-through.
Yeah.
You can't carry anything else. So I'm carrying the bag. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. All I'm thinking about is that peanut butter I'm gonna fucking eat. So, and then when I'm walking like this, I'm like, all right, I got my peanut butter. Let's just get to the dorm. I don't care about anybody else. One of the white trucks, and the white trucks are what the COs drove.
Okay.
I'm like, oh man. They're driving along the sidewalk that I'm walking. The sidewalk's like, 20 feet or something like that. It's a road for them too. I'm walking, and I'm just holding my breath, just trying to be as normal as possible, right? They drove by me, and I'm like, whew, thank God. Because that was the first time I ever ran into any COs when I was going up like that. There's 1,000 guys running around. On that day, it was literally probably me and like 7 other people that I saw. And then there's a CO. So they drove by me, and like my heart went going like this to like, I was like, oh yeah, good. I finally made it.
Yeah.
So I'm making it up to the walkway to get up to the dorm. And I hear, hey, you. And I keep walking.
Oh man.
They're not talking to me. I'm just gonna keep walking. And then one of the RDAP inmates that's walking down the hill was like, the CO over there is talking to you. And we called her Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
She was the only female CO. And we were all more scared of her than the guys. Mm-hmm. She was intimidating. He was like, yeah, she's calling you. I was like, oh, shit. So then I turn around, I walk over there, and she's like, your bag looks heavy. Let me see your bag.
Man.
And literally, all I thought about at that moment was, what is the shoe going to be like? Mm-hmm. Because even in RDAP, if you get in trouble doing something, because you're held to a higher standard, we're going to have more of a punishment than the average inmate would get. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get caught. Lying is a 0% success ratio. And the moment I walked up to her, I'm like, look, I'm going to show you what I have in the bag. I have 5 pounds of peanut butter that I got from the gym. Uh-huh. And I opened it up, gave it to her, and then she took my bag. Uh-huh. She took everything. And I thought I was going to get thrown in the shoe. Uh-huh. Right? What happened next was she was like, who's your DTS? She's like, you're RDAP, right? She's like, you got that lanyard on there? She's like, oh, you're green. So I'm a veteran.
Ooh-wee.
I should know better. And I'm like, oh, man, I am a month away. Maybe they won't do anything because I've been great, right? That wasn't the case. So she was like, who's your DTS officer? And I was like, it's Miss Z. That was the initial. It's a longer last name. I was like, it's Miss Z. She's like, well, I'm going to go and have a talk with her. She's like, and what's your name again? And your BOP number? And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. It's my number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She was like, because you're in RDAP, we're going to handle this a little bit differently. We're going to talk to your DTS, and your DTS will talk to you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, great. So I'm thinking, oh, man, maybe it's not going to be as bad as I think, right? So then I get back to the dorm. I feel like by the time I got in there, everybody already knew. Literally, the moment I walked into the dorm and I went into the room, by the time nighttime, real nighttime would come and we're all hanging out, everybody was like, hey, it's peanut butter. Yeah. Hey, there's peanut butter. I was like, oh, man, this is how it's going to be, huh?
That's so quick.
Yep. And then that night was pretty sleepless because I've been in RDAP for a while. So I know out of 100+ guys, the odds of them calling me out in the morning during group, we meet every day, Monday through Friday, in group, in one room. You got all the chairs. You got the yellows here and the greens here, and then the reds are here, but we're all facing each other, and then you could stand in the middle of the center and get crucified. I'm like, man, I know how this is going to be.
But was your supplier in RDAP?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for visualization's sake, 5 pounds of peanut butter. It's not a paint bucket from like Home Depot or Lowe's or those utility buckets, but it's more like a paint.
Yes, it's like
1 gallon paint bucket.
Yeah, let me take a look at here. You got 40. It's like 2 of these.
Yeah, like those little smaller white.
Yes.
Commercial buckets.
But it was more of a white plastic one you couldn't see through, and then you just rip the thing open like that.
Okay, I can see it.
So I was like, oh, man, damn. I know what's going to happen at group. So I wake up, we go to group. I'm just sitting there like this, like, oh, man, someone's going to call me out. Mm-hmm.
But no one saw you. Did they see you or no?
Oh, one guy, yeah.
Okay.
The one guy that pointed me out and pointed me that Ronda Rousey was looking for me, and then a couple of the other guys. And they didn't have to see it. It could have been hearsay and they heard it. And if it was hearsay and didn't happen, you could just try to clear it up like this guy's a liar. That happens sometimes. There's a lot of animosity in there. So like if if I didn't like you, I could call you up and say, hey, Sonny, man, I'm going to call you for super optimism. You tried to take some food from the kitchen. And you'd have to explain yourself. It's almost like a mock trial or whatever. So then I'm sitting there, and two guys, barely ever happens. They were like, all right, let's say our national RDAP anthem or whatever. We'd all stand up, blah, 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 whatever. Then we'd all sit down. And then they were like, all right, first order of business, let's address behaviors. Two guys got up, pointed at me, and they were like, hey, Tony, please stand up. I'm calling you out for super optimism. We saw you getting accosted, by one of the COs, and you were trying to steal peanut butter. At first, it's like, now that I think about it, I'm like, that shit's kind of funny, man. That's RDAP. That's RDAP. That's how strict it is. Any of you want to go on RDAP, the chances of you screwing up are pretty high, So I went to go, and they were like, then my DTS was like, oh, well, let's tell you more. She was like, will you please stand up in the front? I stand up in the front, and my DTS asked me to explain the situation, what happened. And she was disappointed because up until then, I was one of her, I don't want to say favorite. They're not going to play favorites like that, but I was a good example of RDAP. I never got caught with the peanut butter before, but then what happened was when I explained what happened, I said, I was at the gym, I got a peanut butter, it was my first time, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, when the officer called me out, I then accepted responsibility right away. I didn't try to lie. I gave her the peanut butter, so on and so forth. And then they asked me the one question that got me in trouble. This is the hit or miss in RDAP, because it's all about, RDAPs, they call it the snitch program. That's why we're calling people out and all that. The only difference now was they wanted to know who gave me the peanut butter. So they were like, and even the RDAP people didn't ask. At this point, I was getting cross-examined by the DTSs, not even mine. Some of her colleagues. And one of the guy DTSs came over and talked to me in front of everybody and was like, where'd you get the peanut butter? I was like, the gym. Who gave it to you? I was like, I can't remember his name. I was like, I really can't remember his name. I know that we always call him, it's like KG or something like that. I made that shit up, man. I'm out now. His name was Mike. Hi, Mike. How you doing, brother?
Do you know
I was
what
like, but
happened
you
to
know
Mike?
why I didn't? I was like, I didn't rat you out. I never ratted him out.
So you don't?
Nope. I said,
Nothing
all I
happened to
know
Mike?
is I know him by KG. And one time before we went to the gym, I was at the cafeteria, and I was like, give me some of that peanut butter. And then we met up, and this is exactly how the transaction went down. There's 1,000 guys here, so, I don't know him like I would know any of you here, right? They didn't accept that.
Yeah.
They were like, we think you're lying. This DTS is now. At this point, the group, they're like, oh, shit. We don't get to kick his ass. They get to kick his ass. So then at the end, when I told the story and everything, the ended group, nothing happened to me. I thought I wasn't going to get in trouble. They were like, all right, the story is the way the story is. Let's adjourn, go about the day. So I'm thinking, yes, free. No, man. The next day at group, I hear over the speaker, Mr. Tony, report to the DTS station.
Anytime you hear your name over the PA,
Dude, it's never
and
good.
it's not for an official
No.
visitation time or some other
No.
planned time, then you know something's up. Every
Yeah.
time someone's name got called in the dorm, you knew something was up.
And then they sat when they were like, Mr. Tony, come to the DTS station. I went into the room, and it was literally probably like a 300 square foot room with a table, and then they were sitting there, 3 on 3. And then the head manager, who was an actual officer or something like that. And then I sat at this end.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here like this.
Yeah.
I see 3 of them here, and then the big boss right there. They're like, hey, Mr. Tony, have a seat. They're like, we're going to ask you this one more time, not in front of the people.
Yeah.
Who gave you the peanut butter? Was it anyone in RDAP?
Uh-huh.
I was like, no, because then I would probably know their real name, and I'd tell you who it is.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it was not. They're like, well, who is it? I was like, I just know he's known as KG. He's over in like Alex or the other hall. Alex is one of the halls.
Yeah.
I was like, it's maybe Alex or something. I was like, I only met him one time.
Yeah.
I have no idea, even though I knew exactly who he was.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to rat on an RDAPper.
Mm-hmm.
And even that looks bad. Because you're gonna, they're gonna view you in a certain way. But it's another thing to go and rat on someone in general pop.
Mm-hmm.
That would be bad. So I stuck to my guns on that no matter what, because I was like, you know what, at this point in time, my stay is going to probably get extended, and the last thing I want to do is go to the gym, see the guy that I ratted out, and you know what I'm saying? And it's just going to be bad. So I'm like, I would rather have the respect of, I'd rather have the RDAP people see that I'm not going to rat somebody out, and the general pop people, because he already heard about it.
Yeah.
And the general pop people hear that I'm not going to rat him out and have a comfortable life in prison, if that makes any sense, then I'm going to stay there no matter what. So I might as well stay there under a less stress environment than having that scarlet letter on my freaking forehead that I'm a rat. Nothing's worse than being the rat. So I'm sitting there, and they were like, well, no matter what, Mr. Tony, we still believe that you're lying. And I'm like, oh, here goes. I know this. They were like, we are going to move you back to yellow. Effective today.
And that equates to what period of time?
When you move back to yellow, when you start back over, you lose 2 months already.
Okay.
You got to start new. And we were just about to, you're finishing the green phase. So I got pushed back one term.
So total time extended was what?
Almost 2.5 months.
Okay.
3 months.
Okay.
Around there, give or take. I don't know the exact dates. All I know is I had to stay there longer.
Yeah.
I extended my stay another, say, 3 months, not including the halfway house and all that stuff. But, at the end of the day, no matter what, I was, because of this peanut butter right here, I lost time, because I went from about being in there for, say, 10 months to, 13 months.
Over a jar of peanut
Over
butter.
a jar of peanut butter. So I'm like, all right, well, what can I do? But it actually worked to my benefit for a little bit. Even though the punishment was there, it was my fault anyways. I got caught. So, I can't sit there and make mistakes. It's like my crime. All you people out there that say you're not guilty, you're lying. We're all guilty. So I was guilty. I got caught with it. I knew my time was going to get extended, but the time that I had extended and I stayed there, at least there was that respect from your you want to say peers, respect from the other prisoners. Because by the time all of that was over, and I don't know how people word spreads fast. I mean, you probably know that too. You're in a one room with the whole entire camp.
Yeah.
Word spread fast all over. Even KG, he was like, you know what? Thank you for not snitching. So I can't give you any more peanut butter. You know, at that point, the last thing I cared about was peanut butter, man. I learned to ration my little 2 jars instead of getting a 5-1. But, you know, in terms of that certain level of respect and stuff, you know, it kind of all worked out. But at the end of the day, too, even in RDAP, you know, when I made that particular mistake, at least while I lost time, the extended time I was there, I got a lot of respect to a certain degree. But then also, you know, one of the opportunities that I had coming out is, you know, a friend that, you know, we met there and we got to get to know each other too. So it kind of worked out in the end because we were able to get close, and he took great care of me because I was out first. Took great care of me and gave me an opportunities. I didn't have to go and flip burgers or make tacos at Taco Bell. Nothing against the Taco Bells and the burgers and stuff, but that's the thing with, you know, with RDAP being held to that higher standard.
I mean, there's all kinds of wrongs in this whole story, but I mean, even with that panel, like, you're guilty until you're proven innocent.
Yeah,
Just like my case, like, we were guilty until we could prove ourselves innocent. And then in order to do that, you need millions of dollars or, you know, all this time and the risk of getting like 15, 20 years versus 1 month. But that's another story.
Right, but even though, you know, and this, I didn't mean it, to all the viewers out there, I didn't mean you're guilty. Because even, for example, a lot of the you know, the crimes, like, you know, your area, not to get in your specifics, but the intent wasn't really.
Yeah.
The intent wasn't really there. It's the action. Nope. Yeah, the result still was, you know, say illegal, but a true intention was not your intention. You know, my crime, the intention was, I meant to do that
for
shit.
Sure,
you know
there
what
are
I mean?
guilty people, but there are also a ton of not guilty people that in the government's eyes, you're guilty before you're ever given a chance to prove that you're innocent. But
you know, and that's the thing too with RDAP. If you're thinking of getting into it, it's gonna make an experience already that sucks. Your freedom's already taken from you, and it's gonna be even more strict.
Yeah, I feel like there's 2 ways to look at it. Like, you cut some time off, but my experience was definitely different from that. And for them to play like this whole psychological stress game and like all the anxiety that they're putting on you and having to have eyes in the back of your head 24/7, like, I had a lot more leniency at my stay, and I worked in the kitchen, so we had a lot of stuff. But we can talk about that next time.
I want to learn more about the kitchen because I mean, you know, your experience was so different.
Yeah, so different.
Than mine. Yeah, you would have hated our dad.
I mean, just to
you couldn't make all.
I really would have, because I was trying to get my food right too, because I was working out and doing all of that, but I was getting actual protein and actual veggies and as good of food as you could get. And there are definitely ways to do that working in the kitchen. So I was KG or Mike on the other side.
Exactly. So you were my K, you know, you're my
stuff,
KG, and you know, even after all that, I still had the same DTS specialist every time we had our one-on-ones. She always asked me, "Are you sure you didn't know who that guy was?" Even in my exit meeting.
Yeah.
Mr. Tony, are you sure you didn't know who that guy was that gave you that peanut butter? I was like, if I knew, I would have told you. So bad. You're probably watching this right now, Missy. Yeah, I was.
That peanut butter is gonna stick with
Yeah,
you
but if you
forever.
are watching this, it was more important for me to have my respect and my stay period than calling people out. You know, at some point, you got to choose.
Yep, absolutely. On that note,
Let's do it. So on that, thank you for watching the Criminal Code. And as we always say, if you ain't indicted,
you ain't invited.
all right, guys, make sure you put some comments. They're all great, and it'll give us ideas for other episodes. But the next episode coming up here soon is going to be
Talk about the inside kitchen.
the inside of the kitchen. All right. Thank you guys for your time. Have a great day.